What if I told you the decades-long struggle between pursuing long-term growth and achieving short-term sales is rooted in a myth, and going broad for the brand and targeted for performance is wrong? According to new research from TransUnion and MMA Global, you can achieve your short-term goals without sacrificing long-term sustainable growth with a single audience strategy by focusing on the group of consumers most receptive to your advertising, your brand's movable middles. Don't waste another dollar on audiences who won't respond to your ads. To learn more, download TransUnion's new white paper at transunion.com/mm.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Pasquarelli, Special Projects Editor and Senior Reporter at Ad Age. And welcome to another edition of the Marketer's Brief Podcast, our weekly discussion about marketing news and trends that have the industry buzzing. The footwear and sportswear category is one of the most competitive, with both established players and new brands vying for a piece of the market. Today, we'll be talking with Tara McRae, who recently joined Puma as Senior Vice President of Marketing and Brand Strategy in North America after working at Clarks. She'll discuss how Puma is staying competitive with other sportswear brands and what to expect from the brand this holiday season. Now here's my conversation with Tara. Hi Tara, thanks so much for joining us. So you joined Puma earlier this fall, but this isn't your first time at the brand. You spent a decade there in media planning and sports marketing. I think it was between 2006 and 2016. Now, I know a lot has changed since then, but what would you say is the biggest change at Puma since you left 8 years ago?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, 8 years doesn't seem like a long time, but so much has happened in those 8 years. I mean, we'll just put aside the global pandemic for a second. But with the brand, yeah, it's been really exciting to watch it from the outside. But I think some of the biggest changes have been the size. Obviously, Puma grew quite fast. When I left the North American business, we had just gotten to $1 billion, which was so exciting. And it's more than double that. So really, really exciting in the size of the business. We entered a massive new category while I was gone in basketball, which is my first love. Although if I'm talking to somebody about soccer, I might say that's my first love because they're both like equal at one. But yeah, that's really exciting, and have worked on the strategy and business planning of entering into that category and then to come back. And we're not only in that category, it's been pretty remarkable what we've done in that category. And then I would say the market dynamics as a whole are dramatically different. So the marketing playbook, or what worked for the brand when I was here last, it's totally different. And everything, from brands to how they market is quite different than it was 8 years ago. So there's a lot of stuff that I have found comfort in that is the same that as it was 8 years ago. And there's a lot of familiar faces, but there's definitely a lot that's changed.
Yeah, just thinking about as you were talking, some of those new marketing terms like creators and influencers, and those weren't even around, not even 5 years ago. So I
Nope.
bet there is a lot of opportunity for you in marketing. What kinds of opportunities are you seeing for the brand as you get into the new role?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's really exciting because when I was here at Puma the first time and then coming back to it, Puma's always been in the forefront of trying new things, especially when it comes to the brand, but especially in marketing, which has always been really exciting. So, where at other brands and companies I found is you had to convince a lot of people to test into new things. Here at Puma, you haven't had to do that. So, coming back and seeing they have an amazing gaming proposition with Roblox and Fortnite and some of the other areas, that we have a fully functioning and amazing social team and influencer team. The PR team led by Melissa has evolved dramatically since I was here last. So I think there's a lot of exciting stuff to tap into. But what I'm definitely down for and game for is the risk taking and trying new things. And a lot of them, as you know, may not work, but you never know unless you test into them. So that's one thing that Puma's always been known for, no matter what the new marketing term was or what the new marketing channel was. But that's something I'm definitely pushing the team on to continue.
That's great, kind of that testing, because sometimes
Yeah.
it feels like you need like upper leadership to kind of buy in. You need them to accept that line of thinking, and I know it can be challenging for marketers to get the CEO or leadership on board. So it sounds like you already have that, which is great.
Yeah, honestly, that's one of the great and exciting things about Puma is you don't have that red tape. So you don't have that hurdle here. So all the way up to leadership, everybody gets it and is really excited. And being a consumer centric brand, understanding the consumer, that's the right thing to do. So that's one thing I'm extremely grateful for.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the marketing that was in place, and then we'll see where you plan to go with it.
Yeah.
I'm specifically thinking of the Forever Faster tagline that Puma debuted earlier this year. How do you see that work fitting into the marketing moving forward? Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, so funny enough, Forever Faster has been around since about 2014, 2015. So I was part of the team that helped reposition the brand under the mantra of Forever Faster. What we did launch last year that I think you might be referring to as our brand campaign, which is See the Game Like We Do. And so, from that standpoint, that continues. We just launched a new chapter in the brand campaign under our basketball and Puma hoops. So, that's very exciting. That is just hitting the market right now, perfectly timed with Stewie as one of our lead in the commercial, winning the championship last night with the New York Liberty. But yeah, that plays into it. We are really excited. That media campaign is launching just now, which was something we had debuted during the Olympics in one of the chapters. We have a lot of exciting stuff happening next year. The evolution of that is what actually I was working on this morning prior to getting on the call with you, and what the evolution of that looks like next year. I think that's probably the singular most exciting thing that I see coming down the lane for us.
Well, with that new campaign, what channels are you finding that it particularly resonates with in marketing? Is it kind of like all 360? Are you doing linear and connected and TikTok and all of that? Or kind of how are you breaking it down?
Yeah, I think that's in addition to launching for the first time, and I can't tell you how many years, a very coordinated global media campaign around the Olympics. I think that's the exciting thing is we brought together all the different channels. So what one might deem traditional media channels, we brought into the mix. Our social channels, we tried extremely innovative stuff and exciting new tests within the media campaign. And that was the first time that we did that. And as you can imagine, spending a lot of money and coordinating, and this was obviously before I got here, and coordinating the entire world around this moment, around the Olympics, it was highly measured. And so I got to come in at the tail end of that and not only see what had happened with the campaign, but see the results of it, which is why I think we're very excited because the needle did move, and we're very excited about how we take that and evolve that as we head into next year. So it was a mixture of everything. And that's the first time in so many years that I can remember we were on TV and in social and out of home and, typical traditional and, new innovative spaces.
So, were there any single channels from your testing that you found that it was surprising that, we didn't know we would be so that we would have such a receptive audience in this segment or anything like that?
Yeah, I think it's the culmination of all of them. And that's what, we found is I know because I speak to a lot of different people and they're like, oh, well, that doesn't work. And it's in isolation, it may not work, but in combination with all of the other mediums, it's quite powerful. And I think that's what we proved too, is because we were really focused on singular outlet of social for so long, because that's where our consumer is. We know that in today's day and age. However, we were missing all the other elements to really challenge and get that cut through, which was very exciting that we proved. So there'll be a lot more to come of that as we head into next year.
And is everything done internally? Do you work with an agency? Let's talk a little bit about those relationships.
Yeah, so we do a lot internally, but globally, there are a handful of agencies that are used. Our global brand director resides in Germany, so there's a lot of our global team members that are over there. We do have some here in the States as well, but we use a combination of agencies and in-house, which from my opinion and my history at other brands, I've always found the right combination there. Having everything totally internalized, I think, is tough because you're not getting those ideas from the market. And having your brand totally externalized, you're missing the people that are waking up and going to bed thinking of your brand every day. So we have a combination, which I think works really well for our brand. And, some of the different business units have different agencies that really go endemic into that particular business unit.
So, what kind of marketing is coming up for the holidays? I know you just mentioned the basketball push, but there's still several weeks left of the year. Is there any like holiday specific work that you guys will have coming out?
Yeah, so we have a massive amount of stuff coming out between now and the end of the year, which is really exciting for the brand. Yes, the Hoops campaign. So that just launched, and you'll see that go through the end of the year. In addition, we are activating around our sponsorship for F1 in Las Vegas, which is really exciting. So we will have a big experience there in mid-November. So you'll see a lot of stuff coming, and we have a global launch of one of our iconic styles. And then we have a traditional holiday campaign that will launch in particular for our D2C business for gift giving and whatnot. We also are dropping a few different collaborations. So there'll be some newness and excitement towards the end of the year as well. So more to come on those.
Yeah, the dropping new collaborations, that seems like particularly lucrative for brands. So you keep the interest of your customer and everybody checks in periodically, you get sellouts, all of that. So
Yeah, and for me, there's that sweet spot of how many collaborations do you do and who do you do them with? And for me, I always look at it as, is it bringing a new consumer into our ecosphere, targeting somebody that may not have considered Puma before, or is it exciting our current base by bringing a brand that could excite them as well, or testing into new stuff maybe we haven't done before and we want to get into that space. So the brand has been remarkable in what they've done over the past couple of years, and we've got some stuff coming that's really even more exciting in my opinion as we head into next year.
let's take a quick break for this message from our sponsor.
For today's marketers, efficiency is the name of the game. But maximizing the impact of your marketing budget with a movable middles audience isn't just a theory, it's a proven fact. Based on findings from TransUnion and MMA Global, nearly a dozen brands, from consumer packaged goods to banking, boosted their ROAS by up to 23 times when they targeted movable middles, outperforming every other commonly used audience strategy. To explore how movable middles can help you make the most of your ad dollars, download TransUnion's new white paper at transunion.com/mm.
Welcome back. So footwear is one of the most crowded categories in retail, but it also carries a lot of brand loyalty. How are you working to make Puma a beloved brand, particularly with younger Gen Z buyers and Gen Alpha too?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I have one child that's a Gen Z and one child that's a Gen Alpha. So I definitely know there is some difference between the two of them. Yeah, I would say, and every brand's clamoring at trying to unlock these consumer targets. For us, it is a super crowded space, highly competitive, but that's why we do it. It's really exciting. It's one of the most exciting industries, in my opinion. That's why I've stayed in it for so long. I think for us as a brand, I mentioned before that we're working on the evolution of our brand positioning and our brand campaign, really fine tune that to go after the consumer that we're speaking of. So that's going to be a big element in it. Getting that cut through, because they're so bombarded with so many messages, and how we do that into next year is pivotal. One thing that is key for us are the ambassadors that we partner with. So whether it is, some of our big names like ASAP Rocky or Rihanna or Rosé from Blackpink, some of our amazing motorsport ambassadors or teams such as Ferrari, or some of our soccer teams like Man City or AC Milan or some of the national teams, those connections as well, and how we activate around those ambassadors and partnerships is key to unlocking these consumer targets. So it's a full mix. I can't say that there's, one recipe that we follow. I think it's a mixture of how we pull all these things together.
And have you noticed anything differently, or does anything stand out to you about the way in which the younger consumers are shopping, particularly as you pointed out, Gen Alpha and Gen Z with your two children and kind of your own focus group? Are you seeing that they're shopping differently, and how does Puma's brand strategy kind of play into that?
Yeah, I think, it's everybody knows the influence of social media and how they take everything in instantaneously and where they're getting their inspirations from. But one thing I have noticed is, I loved reading the headlines for so many years. It's like retail's dead, nothing else matters but, social commerce and online, which is far from the truth. I know we see and we do the research on these younger consumers that they like in-store experience as well. So they may gather their inspiration, yes, from their group of friends, which is, obviously stemming from social and all of that, but they like that in-store experience. So that's one thing we at Puma have been focused on. And I think you're aware, we opened a flagship in New York City a couple of years back. And it is a lot of people throw around the word flagship. For me, this is a true flagship. It not only houses all the different categories that the Puma brand offers, so the best product that we offer, but every single business unit and every single offering has an experience. So you get to immerse yourself in that experience within the flagship. So I think for us, the importance of that in-store proposition, both within our own ecosphere and with our wholesale partners as well, that in-store experience is pivotal.
Yeah, that's to make a flagship. To me, I think of a flagship as like a destination. So it sounds like you guys have all of that, plus a place where people can try on shoes because, as we know, different footwear brands are all very different sizes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then we have a second one coming in Las Vegas. And I can't get into too much detail on it, but we do have would be our second flagship. And as you could imagine, when you think of Las Vegas, you think of an insane experience. So I will say our store will absolutely live up to that.
We did just write about the power of in-store experiences and pop-ups as driving loyalty and interest for brands. Do you foresee any, aside from the flagships, any pop-ups or kind of physical experiences like that to kind of cater to this demand?
Yeah, absolutely. We've done a bunch in the past, especially around major sporting events. Historically, on the performance side, we've had some on our sports style side as well. We have one coming up in New York next month too, which is really exciting. So, absolutely. And I think these flagships, as we talked about, are the ultimate brand immersion and experience. But obviously, you can't do that everywhere. One, it gets watered down, and two, it's insanely expensive and hard to upkeep. And then, it's just not the experience that you want. So, yes, we're using pop ups and partner retail as well. The one of the most awesome things about Puma is we work with some of the best retailers in the world who equally are focused on their in-store experience. So getting to do some pop-ups with them and getting to do installs at some of these stores have been fantastic.
Now, as you mentioned, the brand also has a big roster of ambassadors. How do you choose what athletes to work with? Like, how do you know that it's going to be a fit?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will say, this is something that has not changed since I was here last. And I mean that in a good way, is we always put ambassadors through the Puma filter. So when we're going out to look for an ambassador in a key category, if we feel as though there's a need there that will help us enhance the story, connect with the consumer, we'll put it through the Puma filter. Obviously, high performance, obviously, high style is important to us as well. They need to be a unique player within their field of play or port of play or car of play as well, but one that really buys into the uniqueness of the Puma brand. Their fashion and style and the way that they're focused on their own community is just as important as being a high performance athlete. So there's, probably amazing high performance athletes out there that may just not fit the Puma brand, and vice versa. So that's one of the most exciting things, I think. And one of my favorite things about Puma is how we figure out the exact partners that we're going to move forward with.
And one big partner, as you mentioned, is Rihanna. Do you have any new collaborations coming out with her that we can be on the lookout for? How is she
Yeah.
fitting into the mix? Because I know that's also been a big driver of
Yeah.
brand love.
Yeah, and that was funny because that's the one that I worked on the launch of when I was here. And then when I came back, she re-signed with the brand as well. We just launched this past week the Avanti with Rihanna. So yes, we've had multiple drops since she's been back at the brand. We do have multiple coming up as well that are exciting into next year. But this past week, the Avanti, which has been very successful to date, which fuses football or soccer with high fashion and one of our historical styles that she's reinterpreted for today. So yeah, I mean, it's always exciting to work with Rihanna. She has her own unique style and creativity, and she wants to put that spin on our Puma brand. So some of our favorites have been, archival styles that she's interpreted for today's consumer.
And we're almost out of time, but since we are almost to the end of the year, I feel like this is a question we're going to be asking a lot of marketers. As a marketer, as you think about 2025, what are you most excited about? And also, what are you most concerned about?
Well, I'm personally excited about the evolution of our media and brand campaign because we're going to be tapping into so many different aspects of the marketing mix that we haven't been able to do before and coordinated. I think what I'm worried about is just the macro environment that's out there. I mean, I'm working in a category right now that in my career, which has been many years, I have not seen it grow at such a small amount. It is, I've seen it grow so much over the past decade and a half, and it's slowed down. So that concerns me as a whole. So I'm hoping the macro environment shifts in a positive momentum for us, because there's a lot of excitement out there. There's a lot of young brands that are super creative, which is challenging all of us to get more creative in our marketing mix. And I always believe that it doesn't matter how much money you have, the creativity needs to come from within the team. So I would say that's what I'm most excited about. And what I'm most worried about is definitely the macro environment.
Well, we're out of time. Tara, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
That was Tara McRae, the new Senior Vice President of Marketing and Brand Strategy in North America at Puma. And I'm Adrienne Pasquarelli, Special Projects Editor and Senior Reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Chiardio, and invite you to subscribe to the Marketer's Brief podcast on your favorite player. We promise to keep it brief, or at least short enough for your morning coffee. Thanks for tuning in.
Marketer's Brief listeners get $40 off an adage.com subscription. Sharpen your marketing edge and visit adage.com/brief for your discount.